I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. The show goes on!
It's Wednesday night and fantasy football is on the agenda. Grab a seat and let's get down to business. It's time for the Fantasy Boardroom. Here's your host, Tycoon.
And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. As always, I am your host, Tycoon, ready to talk some fantasy. Let's go. Tonight, once again, no guest, but I am very happy to announce that does change next week. Very excited about that. We're finally going to have guests back into the boardroom, as there should be. It's a much better show when we have somebody to banter with a little bit, so we will have guests returning next week and for the foreseeable future. So excited. Who it is going to remain a little bit of a secret. No, it's not a big name, but, well, it's big to me. I like him, okay? I like him. So it'll be fun to have somebody else back in here. Yes, sir. Anthony, welcome, welcome. Best friends of the show, get right. Glad that he's in the house here. So tonight, it's probably going to be a little bit shorter of a show. As you know, we've been going through the various position groups the last few weeks. Tonight, we land on tight end. Probably the briefest amount of analysis that I'll have for you. I am not the tight end guru, so I'm not going to give you a deep dive. Well, I'm a little bit, but there's just less here, less players to discuss than anywhere else. So it's not going to take quite as long. I am going to reiterate some prop discussions for you here, and we will move forward. So to begin, we will start, as always, with the group that is higher than consensus. This is a very, very short list that we're going to have. Number one, we'll start with a possibly more obvious candidate for such a thing, and for me, it is Zach Ertz. Now, if you have watched over the last few weeks, you know that I'm a little lower on Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals as a team, as an offense, everything, than probably most people are. I'm not a believer. With that said, it would be silly to deny that they are obviously going to have some juice, and we saw Ertz transition pretty well into the Arizona offense upon his acquisition from the Philadelphia Eagles. And he particularly played well in the absence of DeAndre Hopkins. We know that Hopkins is going to miss the first 6 weeks of this upcoming season. So there's a prime opportunity. Now, Hollywood Brown was not in town last year. He is now. I don't think that's going to matter so much. Ertz has some chemistry already built with Kyler. And I know that Hollywood and Kyler played together at Oklahoma, but it's been years now, so it may take a little time to recapture some of that. Ertz has that right now. He got paid. He will be used. He will be one of the focal points of that offense. So for me, seeing him ranked and being drafted there as tight end 9, that's just a little bit low. For me, honestly, he'd be the first guy I'd take after that top group of 5. So give me Zach Ertz, tight end 6. And he might cool off a little bit, after week 6, beginning week 7 when Hopkins does return. Definite possibility, obviously with the dominant man in town being back on the team at that point. But also, we've seen the second half swoons there from the Cardinals. So right there gives me pause for concern. But maximize those first 6 weeks, trade him after one of the big weeks, maybe even week 4 or 5, and profit. Now, this name may be a hair less obvious. It might not be. He was somebody that was being touted by a lot of people I trust last year, and I was in alignment with that. And no doubt about it, I am ready to be heard again. Yes, that's right. Gerald Everett is that man. Shout out Herms. I know you know what I'm talking about. Most tight ends, honestly, after the top group are kind of a wash anyways. They're really only separated typically 2-ish points per game per season, so it's not much. It really, really isn't. You just need to get lucky and play them when they score touchdowns. Those scoring weeks are really the separators. But this is why I like Everett, because he's playing with a high-flying offense in Los Angeles with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. One of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, at least from a talent standpoint, and he will have an opportunity to be a main red zone target. That Keenan Allen is not, Austin Eckler is not. We know Mike Williams can be. He has trouble staying healthy, or at least playing at full health when he is on the field even. So it's what's the best way to communicate this? He is not going to be any sort of target monster. He's not going to command a large target share, but what he is going to have is value in those scoring situations. And honestly, unless you're playing one of those top tight ends, that's really what you're looking for on a weekly basis, a scoring opportunity week to week. Anthony mentions he always finds himself drafting Ertz a lot in his mocks. Yeah, I mean, he falls to a good spot. And at a certain point, you've kind of run out of those top end, I don't want to say sleepers, but those guys that are probably being ranked in that WR4 range, but they have a shot, if things break right, whether it's an injury or just situationally, things just go their way, have a shot at much higher production. Yeah, once you pass those guys, you can get into Ertz. Otherwise, well, we'll go over that in a minute. But yeah, if you're not willing to go very early for a Kelsey or an Andrews, that's a way to go. But back to Everett. So again, I like him more in standard for the reason I just mentioned that, again, I don't expect him to be a high target, high reception guy. That's not going to be his role on this team. But the athletic tight end is just that, very athletic, a very large target. The Chargers in the red zone a lot this season, not only by virtue of their offense, but probably by the nature of the games that are likely to be played in that division. So half his season is going to be spent in shootouts, in theory. He's being drafted and ranked as tight end 21. Again, kind of a wash from tight end 6 to this range anyways. But to have him at the very bottom there, to me, is just too much. I've got him at 15. That's, again, just by virtue of a higher likelihood of weekly scoring opportunity, which is what you need for that lower tier of tight end. I mean, right now, guys going ahead of him, Irv Smith Jr., Noah Fant, David Njoku, Tanya, Albert O, Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram's going ahead of Gerald Everett. Think about that. It's upsetting. And Anthony chimes in here, loves him some Everett, Hurst, and Hooper late. So we'll mention some late targets here, and we'll possibly circle back to that. So for me, again, back to Everett, tight end 15 for me versus his 21 rank, so a good 6 spots above that. As far as just grabbing one of those late guys at the end of a draft, he's the first name I'm looking for. And now, guys that I'm lower on. This is the shortest segment of all because it's really none. Honestly, in that whole tight end 1 range, I am mostly in line with consensus, which is weird because I never am, but I am in this case. The biggest variance I have outside of Ertz being bumped up, from 9 to 6 is Schultz from 6 to 8, which is hardly earth-shattering. You could even still make a case for me at him at 7. So, hell, you could really sell me on 6 if you tried. I'm not that, in love with Ertz, but I do think he is going to provide the biggest spikes there. After that top 5, I think they're all kind of gross. Even Ertz, even Schultz, even Goddard, Knox, Hawkinson, all those guys. It's whatever. I'm team elite TE. Get Kelsey, get Andrews, get Pitts, get Waller, get Kittle, or you just wait. I mean, till the end, the very, very end. That's the way to do it. If you get somebody like Ertz falling 2, 3, 4 rounds after his ADP, sure, then I'm willing to take a shot at those middle guys. But even then, I don't really want that. I'm really just all for waiting if you can't get an elite TE. Wrong button. There we go. That's what we meant to do. elite. That's what we are. Team elite. Now we'll get back to those late grabs. So as far as guys later in the draft at the tight end position that I am looking for, obviously Gerald Everett is one, for the reasons mentioned above, practically free, and again, at free, it's hard to argue. Another guy with a tremendous price tag at tight end 19 is one Hunter Henry. And yes, I know probably weren't overly thrilled with the production you got out of him last year, but I do think he has some of, again, amongst this later tier, some of the highest upside. He is, again, already been featured or shown to be a featured red zone target for this offense and for this quarterback, Mac Jones, one who he already, again, has chemistry with. And in that regard, they haven't really added much. They added Devontae Parker, but okay. I don't really see what bearing that's going to have here. Honestly, his biggest competition in the red zone is probably Kendrick Bourne. So again, much like Everett, not going to be a high target guy. You really just have to hope that you're playing him in his scoring weeks, but that's a guy that you can target late. Again, if you're punting the position, I have no problem with Henry if you somehow also missed on Everett, which is unlikely because Everett is going later. But now, if you really, really, really want to punt TE, I mean, if you really want to commit to the process, if you really want to say, we don't need them, screw that position, this is not tight end premium, why in the world would I ever invest in one of these guys? Boy, do I have the player for you. And you're going to be familiar with him. You're going to think, that's interesting. You're going to think, oh, that's right. He is a tight end now. And that is Taysom Hill, baby. Oh, and you know it. You love it. You live for it. You cannot wait to draft Taysom Hill at the end of your drafts. I know it. I can feel it. Why do I say draft Taysom Hill late? Well, obviously, again, you can get him very late. He's the best player at the tight end position on the New Orleans roster. Yes, Adam Troutman, he is. But this is really not even about his tight end usage quite as much. It's about his potential gadget usage here. And learning, we just got some quotes yesterday from Dennis Allen, that he'll even still see some snaps at quarterback. So it seems pretty clearly that he's still going to have plays designed for him, and that's right off the bat more than you can say about most tight ends. Most tight ends do not get plays drawn up for them, especially on the offensive end, and especially the quarterback, and who have the ability to actually make a play as such. We know that Taysom, if he gets a little space, can be dangerous with the ball in his hands. If he gets a little bit of run, he's got some power behind that run, he can get hurt, so who knows? But again, he's being drafted late. Doesn't really matter. This is a guy, again, just with a level of upside that you do not see from most other tight ends in this range. In fact, none in this particular range. Why? Because Taysom Hill is literally free. He's tight end 30. Tight end 30. I cannot emphasize how much of a steal that is. Not only is he tight end 30, but he's going 199 overall. I mean, 200th. So we're talking at the end of your draft, if your draft even goes that late. You can get him off waivers after your draft. It's totally fine. But I mean, yeah, Troutman, aforementioned, above him, McBride above him. Then we have Hurst and Hooper above him as well. That was brought up there by Rasta. You may have a point with both those guys. I've actually taken a shot on each already. But Taysom Hill, he is the guy that's going to have a chance at one of those just massive plays because he had something special in the playbook just for him. Why? Because he's Taysom Hill. And apparently it's not just Sean Payton that thinks he's so damn special. Apparently it's the organization. So again, at tight end 30, just take the plunge. Ride with Taysom. Now, I told you that would be quick. Would have been 15 minutes. We wrapped up the position. We figured it out. That's how simple tight end was this year. Done. Now we're going to have an announcement about just a slight shift in plans moving forward here. Now, I had mentioned that after we went through the positional breakdowns, that we were going to move to draft strategy starting at the beginning of August. I've shifted off that. I don't think that's quite the right route to go. Because any strategy is, fantastic if you know how to employ it correctly, but how do you employ it correctly if we haven't gone deeper into the players? So we are going to pivot, and rather than just these rankings, talking about who I think is a good value, who I'm higher and lower than consensus on, blah, blah, blah. We are going to get into each team. We're going to go divisionally. Starting next week, we'll cover 2 divisions, and then we'll do that over the following 4 weeks, north, east, south, west, for each conference. And have you prepared for your drafts that way. Probably have a draft strategy solo episode that last week before the season. I think we're going to have time for that. So that way, as you go into those final drafts, especially those last minute, redraft leagues right before the season, where all of your family and home and office leagues, when all those drafts tend to take place, you'll have been fully prepared on the players and then how to appropriately draft them depending on your draft position or strategy that you prefer to employ. Tight ends are crazy. Thoughts on Bellinger, Anthony asks. I have no thoughts on Daniel Bellinger, frankly. He's a New York Giant. I don't know much about the guy, frankly, and I'm really not incredibly optimistic about whoever the tight end for the New York Giants is. If it's not Saquon Barkley or Kenny Golladay in round 16 plus, I'm not really all that interested. Or Daniel Jones very late in Superflex, I'm okay with too. But other than that, I really don't want anything to do with the New York Football Giants. That's really how I feel about that. So yeah, we're going to get into all the teams, any fantasy significant players starting next week with our first guest. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to get into that angle of it, especially as camps have started as of yesterday. So we're going to have real news to discuss. A lot of what I said over the last few weeks may be invalid come a few weeks, given any coaching announcements that we get from any coaches, any injuries, etc. I mean, shoot, Julio Jones is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer now, which, let's quickly discuss. Doesn't matter. If you're in a dynasty league and he happens to be on waivers, put in a claim, doesn't hurt. Do not invest any real draft capital in your drafts in Julio Jones. Do not do it. That's what I can tell you. He might have a week or two that is awesome if he's able to stay healthy as such, but I have zero faith in his ability to do so. The man has not been healthy in years, and I'm not sure why that would be different now and why his durability would be any different now. Dustin says Julio to the moon. That's because in our Dynasty League, he does, in fact, own Julio Jones and is trying to somehow turn it into something. Do not trade for Julio Jones in your Dynasty Leagues, everybody, unless you can do so for like a 20-25 fifth. That's worth it. Take that risk. So yeah, look forward to the divisional previews beginning next week. Now, I'm going to reiterate something that we were talking about last week, and that was going over some prop betting resources. Again, we're beginning to get into fantasy prep, really, but still no real games for a while. Baseball is still going on, and also just want to sharpen the prop mind as we're getting ready for football. So we're going to go back and discuss some of those resources here in just a moment. Yes, Dustin, of course I'm killing your trade value. If you own Julio at this point, sorry, that's just on you. And if you happen to get something for him, tremendous. If he has a big week one, to move his ass immediately. Rafi Baum says, Matt Ryan has typically loved his tight end. Thoughts on Mo Alley Cox with lack of weapons in Indy? At his price, I actually am very, very okay with it. Tight end 35, 267 overall. Again, if you're totally punting the position, a guy I am more than happy to roll out. There's a couple other guys I'd probably still rather have ahead of him, like Brevin Jordan, the aforementioned Taysom, that you'll be able to get just as easily. That said, anything after these two guys, Hill and Jordan at 30-31, yeah, probably be the next guy I'd take. Mo Alley Cox there. It's I'm not in love with Matt Ryan. I'm not super optimistic about what he's going to do this season, but you are right. Over the years, typically has loved throwing to his tight end. And there are a lack of weapons in Indy. There is Jonathan Taylor, obviously, who is tremendous. And then there's Michael Pittman, who, for me, honestly, I'm lower than most. He's easily still their best receiver. And to me, that's kind of a problem. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. There are a complete lack of weapons in Indy, and I would not be surprised to see Ryan develop a bit of a love affair there with Mr. Cox. So, yeah, actually, very good point. I should have included him on that list. Yeah, at the price tag of free, and you miss out on the top group again, I'll reiterate that over and over. Perfect candidate for punting the position. Perfect. In fact, if you have just a couple of late picks to burn a deeper draft, just load up the final 3 picks on friggin' Hill, Brevin Jordan, and Mo Alley Cox, and you'll be fine. Try to play the matchups the best you can. That's really all you can do. And I'd probably hold off on Cox and see how that relationship with Ryan develops, but I think it has a good chance at blossoming a bit. Good call. Good call, Ruffy. Ruffy Bomb! All right. Dustin Boswell, Julio is wide receiver 1 for him. No wonder you don't accept my trade offers. That's where your head's at. All right, so back to props, because props are important. So back to the resources. Number 1, first and foremost, the one I'm the biggest fan of, recommend the most, is props.cash. Incredible amount of information, generally have information up quickly upon completion of previous games. They integrate the lines into their interface, which is nice. As far as the odds, which is nice. Get a feel for that at the same time. Huge variety of prop categories that they're covering. A lot of very relevant and important data that goes with it, associated with whatever particular prop that you are betting. Great history on players and teams. It's my number 1 resource. I'm a big fan. Props.cash for the win. Another one that I've really become a big fan of over the summer, I only really found out about the site during the NHL playoffs, and that is Pine Sports. So check them out. Pine Sports is a fantastic site. If you are a prop bettor, do yourself a favor, check it out. And baseball specifically, Baseball Savant, brought this up last week, is my favorite baseball-specific resource. Tremendous wealth of data there. And particularly, I like to bet pitching props. That's the only thing I like to bet when it comes to MLB props, because baseball is a messed up sport. This week has been a bit of a bloodbath. I had one bet today, saved my day. I broke even, but Monday and Tuesday were the 2 worst days of the entire season for me. Thankfully, it doesn't seem that I'm alone as I peruse through the MLB gambling community. It's been a bit of a rinsing all the way around. Not for quite everybody, but for most of us, we're all feeling the hurt. It'll turn around tomorrow. Tomorrow's Throwback Thursday. It's throwback to the winning times Thursday, as far as I'm concerned. So we will get back to the wins. Baseball Savant, Props.cash, Pine Sports will all help. Also, one I failed to mention last week for baseball specifically, and that is Plate IQ. Another tremendous wealth of data there. A very relevant, relevant, but, not relevant. This is, a matter of perception, but it is relatively simple to understand, easy interface to follow. So make sure you're checking out Plate IQ and Baseball Savant for baseball specifically, and Pine Sports and Props.cash for everything. Make sure you're also playing on Prize Picks and on Sleeper. Please make sure that you are using our codes, code COLLECTIVE, KOLLECTIV, on Prize Picks on your initial signup, and they will match your initial deposit up to $100. And if you're using Sleeper, please DM me. I will send you a link to our squad. Also, you can be up to date on all of our most current discussion on props available on Sleeper. See what everybody in the squad is betting. Bounce, thoughts off the wall as far as these props go. And make sure if you sign. So when I send you the link, sign up using my code refer-ff_tycoon to also get a deposit match on your first $20 there. Last thing I really want to mention on the main agenda is that come Monday, we are going to have a very big announcement. Woo! Oh, by the way, Shark Week. I hope you're all enjoying that as well. I'm in the spirit. That's, let's go. Shark Week is the best. Maybe subconsciously that's why I saved tight ends for this week, so it could be a little shorter when I can get back to it. I got the Mecha Shark to watch. Nah, just kidding. But yeah, we have a big announcement coming Monday. Well, big, again, a relative statement, but one that I am quite excited for. So please keep an eye out on social media for an exciting announcement from myself, from the Rogue team. For those, again, that if you're into fantasy football, you're into sports betting and prop betting in particular, you're going to want to pay attention to this. And that's that. So, once again, remember to use our codes for Prize Picks and Sleeper. And also make sure throughout the season you are paying attention to us, because we will be coming to you with more of those prop resources and information. We'll have Rogue Risks. We'll continue to provide Thursday Night Football picks when Thursday Night Football resumes with Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit. It's going to be an interesting team. I'm looking forward to that one. And then we'll have our Taco Tuesday picks every week as well when football resumes. Final plug, kind of related to Monday's announcement. Rogue will be back in full force very, very soon. That big announcement is just, can't wait. We need to get into it, man. We have a lot to do, a lot to discuss. So, once again, thank you for joining the boardroom. As always, let's win together. And this meeting of the Fantasy Boardroom is adjourned.